I had a question about a couple of your dogs. So, today I want to talk a little bit about the actual evaluation that we use for evaluating dogs to see if they would potentially make good service dog prospects. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my words today, so just be patient with me. The process that we go through to find service dog prospects is fourfold. First, what we do, and I've talked a little bit about this in a previous video, we go on Pet Finder or Adopt a Pet, and we narrow down our search to age, size. You can narrow it down by gender if you so choose, and area. So, we'll start on there, narrow it down. A lot of the dogs on there I can already eliminate. Like, for example, I'm not really looking for anything that's mixed with Husky or Dalmatian. I'm not looking for anything that's even remotely mixed with Hound of any sort. Mercy is part Hound and just not noisy dogs. Sweet, so sweet and so loyal, but not exactly what I'm looking for a service dog. But anyway, so a lot of them that I can go ahead and eliminate just by dint of breed. I don't really like to worry too much about dog breed, aside from the fact that, I'm not really looking for anything over 60 pounds. I'm not looking for anything smaller than Mercy, so that knocks a lot of them out there right there. So I'm not looking for a Great Dane or another Chihuahua, for example. But, so you're going to want to know what you're looking for when you start. Mercy. You're going to want to know what you're looking for when you start. Of course, I'm not looking for anything under a year old. I'm also not even considering any dogs over the age of 3. Guys, I don't know where my brain is today. It's been a really long day. I'm not looking for anything over the age of 3 because, service dog training typically takes about 2 years. So by the time they're even ready to, be graduated from training, they'll be 5. Depending on the size of the dog, will determine, they may have 4 good years of work in them. And depending on the size of the dog is going to determine how long they're more likely to be able to work. Smaller dogs tend to be able to work longer, discounting any sort of medical problems that may come up later. Larger dogs, service work tends to be really hard on dogs physically. So larger dogs tend to just age faster. And service work does age your dog. It does. A friend of mine, my daughter's godmother, actually, just retired her service dog at the age of 7 because it's so hard on their bodies. And the larger the dog, the harder it is on their joints. Certain breeds, like greyhounds, are particularly prone to things like hip dysplasia, which is another reason I'm not considering any greyhound mixes. So it's just something you have to keep in mind, especially when you're looking at new dogs and you're taking age into account, because unfortunately age is important. Because again, the younger you get them and start training them, the longer they're more likely to be able to work. Again, discounting anything that comes up later. with the size thing, the reason I'm not considering anything over 60 pounds is 60 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's 60 pounds of dog, that's a lot. It might not seem like it, but that's a lot. And I also have to take into account that that's 60 pounds of dog that's going to be getting in and out of, like, Jim's car. Can you guys hear that? Our windows just, like, the windows on our door just started shaking really hard. I don't know what that was. We don't really get earthquakes here, so. But anyways, it's 60 pounds of dog that's getting in and out of, a car. I mean, we don't drive a van. I also have to get in and out of transport buses, my mother's car. I can't drive myself just because of my various disabilities. It's just incredibly unsafe. So, I have to keep in mind that, whatever dog I go with is going to have to be getting in and out of other people's vehicles. We also have Sam, so they're going to be sitting in the back seat of a car with at least one car seat back there, and that's not even considering if I have either of the boys with me. So they will either be in the back seat with 2 toddler seats, or they will have to be in the floorboard at my feet. So that's why I have a size limit when it comes to the dogs that I'm looking for. So we start on Pet Finder. I make a list of all of the dogs that are on there, whether they are listed as cat, kid, or dog friendly, housebroken. If it mentions anything about their energy levels or adoption fees, I go ahead and write that down. And I write down the name of the shelter and their contact information. Right now I have a prospect list that is 3 pages long. Now, something I did today was I called around to several of the shelters that were still open. It was at like 4:30 when I finally got home to make calls. And so a lot of them I'll have to call tomorrow. But some of them were still open. I was able to discount at least one dog off of that list, but they also added another one. But I think I'm going to discount her off of the list, because even though she is cat, kid, and dog friendly and house trained, always a good thing, she's had heartworm in the past, even though she's been treated for it. That's less of an issue because she's already been treated for it. However, she's also had a hip replacement, so not a good thing. Because she already has had a hip replacement, she got run over. So she's already had a hip replacement, so she's more likely to have problems with those hips later. So I am discounting her, which is kind of sad because she's beautiful. But anyways, unfortunately, we can't go with every beautiful dog we see. So, but anyways, so the second step that we take personally is calling around to rescues. Again, by the time I'm done with those calls, I'll be able to cut that 3-page list probably in half. Because some of those dogs, they're not going to be cat friendly, or they're not going to be kid friendly, or good with other dogs. I'm leery about going with any dogs that aren't at least partially housebroken, because that's one of the problems we had with Sherlock, and because I'm not a dog trainer, I'm not very good with house training dogs. I've tried with Sherlock and just not had much luck. So with Mercy, I was still living at my parents' house, and so they were actually there to help me house train him and all that good stuff. So he was actually housebroken long before we moved in here. So yeah. Anyway, so calls tomorrow, I'll be able to knock down at least half that list. The third step is the first evaluation. Now, if I am doing the evaluating myself, because again, I'm not a dog trainer, I don't know how many times I'll have to say it before this vlog is over, but anyways, Whenever I do an evaluation, I always go through this, but then I also will have a second evaluation done, which is step 4, where my trainer friend comes and evaluates them herself if I think they've passed this evaluation. Because I don't train dogs, again. So there are just little nuances and stuff that she would notice that I would not, because I don't work with dogs. So I always, like, for example, this actually still has his information written on it. The last dog that I have to reprint this tonight, but the last dog that we evaluated, his name was Booby, and he I thought he did well, but there were things that she was able to pick up that I didn't, that she was like, okay, he did good, but there are these things you need to consider, and you need to decide whether or not there are more pros than cons to this dog. So, anyways, like, for example, he was very skittish around, like, strange people. I don't want to say strangers, because we were strangers, he'd never met us before, but, like, part of the evaluation she does is she actually, like, puts on some weird clothes and, like, approaches the dog, like, walking with, like, a limp, to see how they might approach just general weirdos out in public. Not saying that, you know, people with limps are weird, but, like, she has, like, big, chunky, like, character house shoes on, and, like, sunglasses and a hat, and, like, a big, heavy backpack that makes noise with stuff in it. Like, basically, this evaluation is we try to aggravate the dog as much as possible. That's how I explained it to my mother once. It's like, we basically go and try and irritate the dog to see how they respond to certain things. There's a noise test in here to see how they check their startle response. It's okay for a dog to startle, for example, but you want them to recover quickly. You know, things like that. So, you know, that was something that she did note with him, was that he is very skittish around odd people, or people who are dressed weird, or have big chunky shoes, you know, things like that. So, you know, she was like, that is something that you need to take into account. It's something that, you know, they can be desensitized to, but they might not. Because he was still in what she called his fear stage age. I guess sometime after puppyhood, they realized that the world is a scary place, I guess. And, you know, it just makes sense to me, I suppose, because kids go through the same thing. But essentially, they go through this phase where if they're going to pick up any, like, weird fears, they probably will then. So, you know, she was like, you might need to work a lot harder with him to desensitize him to those things. So, we ultimately ended up deciding to keep looking. And I think the next, like, 4 days later, we found Sherlock. So, now, if Lauren is doing the evaluating herself, we skip that second evaluation. This time, I think we might not do that. Like, if she's evaluating herself, I think this time I'll want to actually meet the dog first. With Sherlock, she actually did his evaluation. And, you know, he passed beautifully, but one of the things that we were having a hard time with is just Sherlock and I aren't bonding well. And, you know, that's something that, of course, can be worked on, but sometimes it's just, you know, that's, you know, I think this time, if she finds a dog that passes beautifully, I think I will probably want to go and meet the dog for myself before we bring them home, which is what we didn't do with Sherlock, which we probably should have done. So, that's probably what we're going to do different this time. I I feel kind of bad because a lot of, she's very, very graciously and kindly volunteered to go ahead and evaluate any dogs that are in her area. Well, it just so happens that probably about a page and a half of the dogs that are on this list are in her area. So, I love you, honey, don't be mad. But, anyway, so, I'll just run through this evaluation really quick because this video is getting kind of long. There's a portion that's kennel evaluation. It checks how responsive the dog is. You want to see them, coming up to the kennel cage and basically begging for attention. That's what you want to see. You want to check how they do with eye contact. Eye contact, you don't want a dog that's super, super avoidant of it, because I guess it can hint towards them being super anxious. I'm not 100% sure. I just follow the directions. They're very specific on the directions on this, fortunately, so I feel like this is like dog evaluation for dummies. Anyway, you want to see the dog kind of solicit attention. There's another portion that's a lobby evaluation where you actually bring them out. Most rescues, that I've been to at least, have a separate room or area away from the other dogs where you can actually take them and interact with the dog off leash, that sort of thing. So this portion actually covers that. It's the lobby evaluation. They even have a portion that's an outside evaluation that checks, are they excessively interested in wildlife? How do they do on the leash? Do they have, how's their recall? How do they react to traffic? Of course, you don't want a service dog that's going to be super scared of cars, because that would be entirely beside the point. It has a section on here in the outside no, not in the outside evaluation. It has a section where it tests how the dog does with being handled, like their paws. Do they care if you rub the inside of their back legs, or tug on their tail a little bit, pull at fur, tug on their ears, play with their gums, anything that basically either a small child would do to them or a groomer would. So you don't want them to be beautiful and everything else but attacking the groomer. So there's another section how they do with food incentives. How food driven are they? The more food driven the dog is, the easier they're going to be to train. Their tolerance to sounds. There's even a huge section for if you need them to be a hearing dog, which I thought was pretty cool. How they do, there's an interactive exchange section, a section where it tests their curiosity. I like to use baby toys for that one because, of course, we have 1.5 million of them. Let's see, invasive physical exam, leash control. Temperament testing. Will they let you roll them over? Will they let you hold there? Do they get mad or do they accept it? Let's see. I'm trying not to keep you guys too much. I know this video is super long already. What your observations are for their temperament, like are they dominant or submissive, shy, self-conscious, energetic or lethargic, excitable, that sort of thing. It also even has a section about their testing how they do tied up by themselves, which is something that Sherlock epically fails at. Poor Sherlock. In his defense, I think he was abandoned. He was somebody's pet before and they dumped him, so I can't really blame him. So anyway, it tests their friendliness. So anyway, that's it for that. This evaluation is 12 pages long. It is pretty grueling, really. And this is just the evaluation. It doesn't even take into account the crazy amount of training that they'll be doing every day for the next 2 years. So, it's service dog life, I guess. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here because this video is almost 20 minutes long already. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you later. Bye.